Hey, what's going on YouTube? So I've got some more parts ready to be put in primer here. This is the passenger side fender. I've got straightened. So that is this fender. She's ready. I've got the headlight bucket here. This piece is ready to be primed. The other piece for today is the hood. It's straight. It didn't really need much work. Up in this area, there's a little bit of this spot here is a high spot, and I'm gonna need to do some more work on that, but I want to get the whole thing in primer and then kind of see where I'm at. Alright, so got the driver's side fender flare mounted up exactly how I have the passenger side. It'll look a lot better whenever I put the motor in and it drops a little bit more, but it turned out pretty good. Also, of course, got the fender and the hood primed. So I need to go ahead and block sand those and see if there's any highs and lows and fill those in. And now I'm also going to go ahead and take this fender flare back off and start straightening this fender. Doesn't need a whole lot of work, but it does need a little bit of work. I've got some dents circled in there. There's a few issues right in there that I've got circled that I need to fill, and then down here where I put in the patch panel, so that all of that needs to get straightened. But otherwise, this fender won't be too hard. Just those few little areas, block sand the whole thing. So the product I used is right here, and what this is going to allow me to see is the imperfections in the fender that I may not have been able to feel with my my hand. These are the two spots that I had circled earlier. You can see where that guide coat did not get sanded away there. So that's showing me that those are two low spots and then the high spots around it. So I'm probably going to end up swiping this area here with some Bondo and straightening this, and then the fender is pretty much good all the way up here. I sanded it down to bare metal there. There was a little imperfection in the paint, like a little nick, and then also there's a little black left here. It's hard to see in the camera, but it's pretty noticeable. So there's a little low spot there. I can't really even feel it with my hand, but I'm going to go ahead and swipe that. And then keep moving on for the rest of the panel to see if I find any other highs and lows and go ahead and fill that in. Alright, so another update here. I got this whole top piece straightened. So those two low spots there, and then there's some issues up here, so I just swiped it and it's all straight. The rest of the panel fender is pretty much good. Doesn't need much Bondo. I've got some under this line here where it was kind of low and not flush, but that's just a little bit. But where it took the most time was in here. That's because of this patch panel I had in here, and it was kind of distorted from the heat. So it did take a little bit of time. Now this whole panel is ready to be primed along with its headlight bucket. And yeah, so I'm going to get that primed. Alright, so the hood and fender are both finally in primer, and it's looking really good. I'm pretty happy with myself. I usually have someone else paint, but I'm feeling comfortable enough to where I can go ahead and lay the primer down myself, and I'm getting a lot better. You know, it's pretty hard painting, in my opinion. You know, you got to be able to mix it right and have the right temperature outside, and getting the gun set up and all that stuff, and getting a good coat down and making it look good. In my opinion, it's tough to do, but I'm finally getting the hang of it, so now I can actually paint my own parts. So it's awesome. The hood is looking good, so this is just going to need another sand down, a little bit of straightening, and then just one final coat of primer. Same with the fender, and I'm going to do the whole car like that. So I'm going to put the whole car together and do one last coat of one last sanding, and then one last coat of primer to make sure it's all straight, and before she goes to paint. So here's the fender we just got done. It's nice and straight. Looks real nice. So one thing I'm going to do real quick before I put this whole car together and start making sure all the body lines line up and making sure there's no spots that I missed, just a once over before I paint the whole car in primer, I'm going to cover the underside of these fenders. I'm not going to put the plastic liner back in the car, and so you need to cover, in my opinion, you need to cover some of this with some kind of deadening material, so that rocks, when they come up from your tire and they hit the bottom of this fender, you're not going to have a whole bunch of high spots in the top, a whole bunch of little dents. So I'm going to use some sound deadening, just some normal sound deadening that you would usually use for you know, speakers or subs that you'd sound deaden your trunk. This is some 50 mil, pretty cheap on Amazon, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw this under the fenders. I know it's going to add a little bit of weight, but I'm not really too concerned about that. I'd rather not have dents under the fender. So what I did here was I went ahead and put the fender on, and the whole fender doesn't need to be covered, just a small area. So put the fender on, and okay, so we're looking through the headlight bucket, and as you can see, all of this part of the fender is exposed directly to that tire. So I went ahead and got a black marker, and I just traced pretty much everywhere that the rocks could come up and hit the bottom side of this fender. So I traced it, and when I pull it off, I know just the little bit of area that I need to put that sound deadening. So you can see it kind of starts really big up here, and then it gets narrower back there. So I'm going to add some sound deadening to both of these fenders. Okay, so you can see here my line. So this, all of this up here is covered by the basically the top frame rail for the front end. So this won't be in contact with any rocks from the wheel possibly. So I'm going to apply some sound deadening from here down, not all the way down, just a little strip. And yeah, that should soften any rocks coming up to hit the fender, so I don't see any dents. Alright, and just like that, didn't take much time at all to go ahead and just lay that down. Came out pretty good. And then I just put another layer right down there in the center where if rocks are going to come up, that's where they're probably going to hit. So just added one more layer there in the middle on both the fenders, and it looks really good. Alright, got an update here. So the last couple days I've been working on fitting this hood with the fenders and the inspection lids there. I've been having trouble getting the hood to fit right with this T3 strut brace. So as many of you may know, I welded it in, kind of modified it but it's hitting on the hood just a little bit. When I push the hood down on the latch, it's got a lot of pressure. There's no space in between the hood and those braces there. So kind of two options. Either I can sand these down a little bit to give me enough clearance, or I can try and raise the hood. So I raised the hood a little bit, got the hood up enough to where that I can, there's about a 1/4 of an inch gap between the hood and the strut brace, so not going to have any trouble there. But yeah, lots of shimming and moving and tweaking it to get it fit just right. Yeah. What I did actually was I put some shims under the latch here. You can see it fits good now. And then I just raised all of this stuff up just a little bit with a few shims and washers. So everything's fitting good. So just between you and me, I've got some shims there, but no big deal. I want it to look right and fit perfect, even if it takes a couple shims, you know. What I'm doing now, though, is I'm block sanding the whole car. You can see I kind of started on the roof there. The whole car has been sanded, block sanded. So now we are ready to go ahead, and I'm actually going to put some epoxy primer on the whole car, and basically what that's going to do is that's going to seal in the 2K primer. What epoxy primer is, it's a sealer. So we're going to go ahead and seal this car up. So that's the next step. So we got the whole car block sanded. Now we're just going to go ahead and start spraying. So I've got this fender and door pulled off in here, and we're gonna start painting a few pieces. Here's the paint that I'm using. So it's a PPG product. I was given this actually from another guy's restoration. He had an extra gallon that he didn't use, so I'm going to use this to seal the car up. And yeah, it's black. So this car is going to transform from a gray to black. So that's going to be cool. You guys like my new way of mixing up paint? Alright, so I got done painting all these little pieces in this fender. Came out really good. I'm quite impressed with it actually. I was hoping for like kind of like a glossy shine, and it looks pretty good. Went on really nice, so I'm pretty pleased with it. So the hood's next. Got some pieces to sand on that still, get it finished up. But all of this is done. The inner door. I need to flip that over, let it dry and flip it over, do the underside, but this is all looking good. Really nice. Alright, we got to reposition the car to the middle of the garage so we can have the most room to paint it. Alright, in that last clip you saw me painting the body of the 280Z, and here it is. It's had a night to dry and it looks really good. I'm really happy with it. Here's all the body panels. They're all dry as well and everything came out really good. Pretty happy. So now we're going to go ahead and rip this tape off and start putting some parts back on the car, and I'll update you after that. Alright, well here she is, all painted, body work is done, looking really good, and I've got her put back together a little bit here so all the parts weren't taking up so much room in the garage. Got the wing on, looks really sweet. The black is, as you know, just epoxy primer, but I'm actually digging the black. I didn't really explain it much, but I went with the black epoxy because I'm going to wrap the car. I've got some really cool ideas on what I'm going to wrap it, so that's going to come later. I want to get the motor and the car put together before I wrap it, but that's the goal. But I'm actually digging the black. Love the wing. Fuel cell in there. Nice steering wheel. Got the fender flares on, looking good. I'll have to show you guys how I mounted those. I didn't use regular riv nuts. I actually use what's called well nuts, which are basically the same thing, but they're rubber. So I'll have to show you guys that sometime. But I know this video is getting really long. I appreciate you guys who are sticking with me to the end, and definitely more videos coming very soon. I'm going to be starting to work on the motor and start pumping out some more videos for you guys, so it's going to be really sweet. I'm going to get this motor dropped in the car really shortly. I'm thinking maybe the next 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. We should definitely have this motor in there. So that's where I'm going to end this one, guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.